My name is Sophie Hartman, I'm 29, and I used to live a life most people dream of. Married to Ethan Hartman, a successful millionaire businessman, I had everything: a beautiful penthouse, expensive clothes, endless parties, and a social life full of influence. But behind the glittering walls of our mansion, everything was rotten. Ethan was charming to the world but controlling and toxic at home. I knew about his temper, his lies, and his short bursts of cruelty. But I never expected betrayal so blatant. Not in front of everyone. Not with my best friend. It started with a message I wasn't supposed to see. A notification on his phone left carelessly unlocked on the kitchen counter. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you." I froze. My heart pounded. I opened the chat, scrolling, and there it was. A string of texts between him and my best friend, Laura. My Laura. The one I had trusted with my life. The betrayal wasn't subtle.
No hiding. No guilt.
Just audacity. I remember staring at the phone, disbelief turning into nausea, then anger, and then humiliation. That night, at Ethan's corporate gala, I confronted them. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply walked up to the pair as everyone mingled, and I said, coldly, "I see how much you respect loyalty." Heads turned. Whispers spread. I watched as Laura tried to smile, failing. Ethan's face drained of color. The room went silent. My social circle, the staff, even journalists present, all watching my humiliation unfold. I left the gala in my heels, tears burning my eyes, but my mind already forming the first seed of a plan. I couldn't stay. I couldn't breathe here. I had to disappear. By the next morning, I had packed a single suitcase. I left my penthouse, my luxurious life, and my so-called friends. I left everything behind except the truth I carried in my heart. I didn't know how I would survive, but I knew one thing. I would rise again. I moved to a city I barely knew, a place where no one had ever heard of Sophie Hartman, the millionaire's wife. My new apartment was a small, dimly lit studio above a rundown cafe, with peeling paint and a stubborn leak in the ceiling. I couldn't afford much else, and for the first few nights, I slept on a thin mattress on the floor, listening to the rain drip through the cracks. The first days were brutal. Every corner reminded me of what I had lost: Ethan, the penthouse, the luxury, the life everyone envied. But I couldn't afford to dwell on it. Survival became my only priority. I took the first job I could find, cleaning and assisting at a modest beauty clinic. The pay was low, the hours long, and my hands ached every day from constant work. But I discovered something I hadn't realized before. I loved being in a space where I could help people, make them feel good, and actually see the results of my work. My skills as a cosmetologist became my lifeline. One morning, while working, I noticed a young woman hiding in the hallway, crying softly. She was clearly in trouble. I approached her gently. "Are you okay?" I asked. She shook her head. I think someone is following me. I don't know what to do." I offered her a safe place to stay temporarily at my studio. Her name was Maya, an aspiring beauty blogger whose life was falling apart after a nasty online scandal. I didn't ask for anything in return. I just knew I had to help her. In the following months, we became inseparable. I trained her in skincare and makeup, helped her rebuild her confidence, and guided her through creating content for her blog. Slowly, she regained her following, and through her, I began to gain recognition as well. My work, though quiet and small at first, started spreading. Word-of-mouth referrals grew into regular clients. I was finally rebuilding, brick by brick, a life I could be proud of. But life had another cruel twist waiting. One evening, as I was closing my small salon, I received a message I wasn't expecting. It was Ethan. "Sophie, I need to see you. Please. I made a mistake. Can we talk?" My fingers trembled as I read the message. My first instinct was to delete it, to throw my phone into the trash. But another part of me, the part that had been burned, humiliated, and betrayed, felt a cold, calculated determination rising inside me. I didn't respond. I knew he would come, and when he did, I would be ready. I would no longer be the broken, naive woman who ran from betrayal. I would be strategic, patient, and merciless if necessary. For now, I focused on growing my salon. Maya's renewed popularity brought clients who wanted the Sophie touch, and soon I had to hire a small team. My name, once ruined and forgotten, began to mean quality, skill, and transformation. And all of it, every success, was built from nothing by me alone. But the thought of Ethan never left my mind. I pictured him showing up at my door, smug and arrogant, expecting forgiveness. And I knew, when the day came, my revenge would be cold, precise, and unforgettable. Months passed. My salon had become a small but thriving hub. My clients loved the personal attention, the care, the skill I poured into every treatment. And through Maya's blog, my reputation spread beyond the city. I was no longer just Sophie Hartman, the millionaire's wife who had been humiliated. I was Sophie Hartman, the woman who had rebuilt herself, stronger, independent, and untouchable. Then the call came. Not a message, not an email, a call that made my stomach tighten. "Ms. Hartman, this is Ethan.
I
I need to see you." His voice was smooth, familiar, practiced. But I didn't panic. I didn't beg. I simply said, "When and where?" A week later, he arrived at my salon, unannounced but impeccably dressed. His suit was sharp, his hair perfect, the smile he wore as though nothing had ever happened. I greeted him coolly at the door. "Ethan," I said, "you're punctual." "I've made mistakes," he said, carefully choosing each word. "I was wrong, and I want to make it right. Can we talk somewhere private?" I stepped aside and motioned toward my office, the same place where I had planned every detail of my revenge in my mind. As soon as the door closed, I fixed him with a calm stare. "You destroyed my life," I said. "Not just by cheating, but by humiliating me in front of everyone I trusted. And you think a simple apology fixes that?" He swallowed. I want to make amends." I laughed softly, the sound devoid of warmth. "Amends? Ethan, do you even know what I've been through? The nights I cried alone on a mattress that barely qualified as a bed? The months I worked myself to the bone to survive? The truth is, I don't need your forgiveness. I need justice. And now, I have the power to take it." He frowned, sensing the change in me. The woman he once controlled, the woman who had now taken control of her own life. I leaned forward, calmly, methodically. "I've discovered your little schemes, Ethan. All your business loopholes, all the ways you've manipulated your partners, and the way you've used your wealth to hide your affairs. I've been gathering evidence for months, quietly, without anyone noticing." His face paled. "Sophie, you wouldn't." "I already have," I interrupted. "I contacted your business partners, the banks, even a few journalists who specialize in financial fraud. By the time anyone realizes it, your empire will be crumbling. And as for Laura, she's going to lose everything she gained from you, too." He opened his mouth, then closed it. I could see panic flicker in his eyes. The same arrogance he wore like armor was failing him. "You're serious?" he whispered. "I've never been more serious," I said. "And when it's over, I'll still be standing. Independent,
free,
respected, and viral. Because I'm going to tell my story." He didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. When he left, I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt something far more powerful. Control. The power that comes from rising from ashes, from betrayal, from the worst humiliation anyone could imagine. The weeks that followed were relentless. Business partners severed ties with Ethan, banks froze his accounts, and articles exposing his fraud went viral. Laura, once smug and untouchable, found herself without status, without support, without anyone to defend her. And all the while, my salon thrived. Maya's blog featured our story as inspiration, the woman who rebuilt herself after losing everything. By the time Ethan realized he had lost everything, I was already untouchable. Not through wealth, not through threats, not through revenge alone, but through strength, skill, and unwavering control over my own life. The morning sunlight filtered through the blinds of my salon, casting long, warm streaks across the walls. I stood by the window, my hands folded calmly, sipping coffee, listening to the hum of hairdryers, the soft chatter of clients, the quiet shuffle of Maya setting up for a video shoot. It was peaceful, almost serene, but behind that calm surface, the world I had rebuilt was a storm in waiting. For months, I had meticulously collected evidence of Ethan's misdeeds. I had documented every financial irregularity, every manipulation, every fraudulent deal. I had even recorded conversations with partners and former employees who had been silenced by fear or greed. Every detail had been carefully archived, every loophole accounted for. My revenge wasn't impulsive or rash. It was surgical, cold, and strategic. And today, it all came together. The first call arrived while I was setting up my workstation. Ethan's voice, strained and faltering, filled the room. "Sophie, please. We need to talk." I smiled faintly, a smile that had no warmth, only precision. "Ethan, I think the conversation is long overdue. Are you ready to face the consequences of your choices?" I asked calmly. There was silence on the other end. I could almost hear the weight of panic pressing against his chest. You wouldn't," he whispered finally. "Oh, I would," I said. "And I have." By the time he arrived, the press was already whispering. A few journalists had caught wind of a mysterious lawsuit, financial leak, and ethical investigation surrounding one of the city's top businessmen. The information had spread like wildfire online. Articles hinted at a scandal but offered no names. But I knew I would be the one to control the narrative. I greeted Ethan in my office, the same office where I had met him months ago when he first attempted his feeble apology. The air was thick, charged with tension, and I could see the fear dancing behind his polished eyes. "You've lost everything, Ethan," I began, voice steady, cold, and unwavering. "Your empire, your partner's trust, your status, and even Laura, your so-called lover, is now facing scrutiny and ruin. All because of the choices you made and the lies you told." He opened his mouth to speak, but I raised a hand.
No excuses. No manipulation. No charm.
"Today, you face reality, and I will make sure the world sees it." I had arranged an exclusive interview with a major online media outlet, one that specialized in stories of betrayal, resilience, and redemption. A camera crew set up in the corner of my salon, Maya adjusting the lights, ensuring everything was perfect. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman Ethan had humiliated, the woman he thought he had destroyed, was now commanding attention, admiration, and respect, while he was spiraling into disgrace. The camera rolled. I sat gracefully, posture perfect, but my eyes bore into the lens with the intensity of someone who had been broken, rebuilt, and hardened by betrayal. "I want to tell a story," I began, voice firm but emotionally resonant, not just about me, but about the countless women who have been humiliated, betrayed, and underestimated by the people they trusted most. I was married to a man who appeared successful, respected, and charming. But behind closed doors, he was manipulative, toxic, and deceitful. And the betrayal that hurt the most came from someone I trusted deeply, my best friend. I paused, letting the weight of the words sink in. This betrayal was public, humiliating, and nearly destroyed me. My career, my dignity, my sense of self, all crumbled in a single night. I had no family support, no friends who believed me, and no allies in the city I once called home. I could have let it break me. I could have let it end my life, my ambitions, my dreams. But I chose differently. I smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly, a glimmer of triumph shining through the shadows of my past pain. I left everything behind. A luxurious life, a name, a home. I started from nothing. I worked menial jobs, lived in a tiny apartment, and faced absolute solitude. But in that solitude, I found myself. I discovered my skills, my talents, and my strength. I rebuilt not just a career, but a life that I can be proud of, a life where I am in control, where respect is earned, not given, and where betrayal no longer dictates my fate. Maya, standing just off camera, nodded encouragingly. She had become more than an assistant. She was a witness, a partner, and a symbol of the new life I had created. Through hard work, perseverance, and refusing to give up, I continued. I opened my own salon, gained recognition, and even helped others rebuild their lives. And today, I am here not to beg for justice, but to demonstrate that recovery, strategy, and resilience can turn even the darkest moments into a story of empowerment and triumph. I leaned slightly closer to the camera, my tone dropping to something more intimate, more pointed. For those wondering about the man who destroyed so much, yes, he is facing consequences. His business dealings are being investigated, his fraudulent activities exposed, and those who once aligned with him are distancing themselves. And the woman who aided him in his betrayal? She, too, is learning that manipulation has limits. The interview ended, but the impact was immediate. The clip was posted online, and within hours it went viral. Comments poured in from thousands of women and men alike. Admiration, solidarity, disbelief, and encouragement. Headlines flashed across screens. The millionaire's wife betrayed and humiliated. Now she's exposing everything. From riches to ruin. The man who lost it all to his own wife. Sophie Hartman rebuilds life, salon, and reputation after public betrayal. The public outcry against Ethan and Laura intensified. Social media became a platform for discussion, debate, and praise for my resilience. As sponsors, bloggers, and media outlets reached out to collaborate. My salon's bookings tripled overnight. People weren't just supporting me. They were inspired by the story of someone who refused to remain a victim. Weeks later, Ethan tried to contact me again, this time with a limp, defeated tone. I read his messages with calm detachment, replying once. I have nothing to say. The world has already judged you. He never contacted me again. Maya, now a successful beauty influencer, and I stood together in the salon one evening, reviewing the comments and messages from people whose lives had been touched by my story. You really did it, she said softly. You took back everything they tried to destroy. I smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile, finally at peace. Yes, I replied. But it wasn't just about them.
It was about me.
My life, my choices, my dignity. And now, no one can ever take that away. As I looked around my salon, filled with clients, laughter, and the hum of productivity, I realized something profound. The life I had built after losing everything was stronger, more vibrant, and more meaningful than the one I had left behind. I had turned betrayal into strength, humiliation into strategy, and pain into triumph. My story wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every woman who had ever been underestimated, betrayed, or abandoned. And as the camera rolled for my next video, the one that would reach millions more, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was no longer a victim. I was a force, unstoppable and undeniable. And this life, my life, was mine entirely.